Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another Sport This Week video. And in today's video, I've got basketball, tennis, rugby, football, NFL, F1, and UFC news. If you are new around here though and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Like video if you do indeed like video, and let's get straight into it. So, starting off this week, I'm going to start off with the tennis news, and it was the AMRO World Tennis Tournament this week, which Tsitsipas took part in. Tsitsipas won 2-1 versus Davidovich Fokina. Tsitsipas won 2-0 versus Ivashka. Tsitsipas won 2-0 versus De Minaur. Tsitsipas won 2-1 versus Lecheka. And Tsitsipas lost 2-1 versus Auger Aliassime, who then was, as that was the final, won the tournament. So congratulations to him. Unfortunate for Tsitsipas to not get the win, as he did get quite far. Well, he got to the final. But, you know, it's not the end of the world. It's not a massive tournament, really. Moving on to the rugby news now. It's the continuation of the Six Nations. Wales won 20-17 versus Scotland. France won 30-24 versus Ireland. And England won 33-0 versus Italy. So some good scores there, especially for England to get that 33-0 win. Was just what England needed. Moving on to the basketball news now. Clippers lost 137-113 versus Bucks. Heat lost 121-100 versus Wizards. Bulls lost 127-124 versus Suns. 76ers lost 114-109 versus Suns. Celtics won 126-91 versus Nets. Clippers lost 135-109 versus Grizzlies. Lakers lost 131-116 versus Bucks. Bulls won 121-109 versus Hornets. Lakers lost 107-105 versus Blazers. Heat won 112-97 versus Pelicans. Clippers lost 112-105 versus Mavericks. 76ers won 100-87 versus Thunder. Clippers won 108-102 versus Nuggets. Bulls won 134-122 versus Timberwolves. 76ers won 103-93 versus Cavaliers. Heat won 115-111 versus Nets. Bulls won 106-101 versus Thunder. Clippers won 99-97 versus Mavericks. Lakers lost 117-115 versus Warriors. And Celtics won 105-95 versus the Hawks. And yeah, that is all the basketball news. Moving on to the football news now. Man United drew 1-1 versus Burnley. Newcastle won 3-1 versus Everton. West Ham won 1-0 versus Watford. Inter won 2-0 versus Roma. Shaqiri has joined Chicago Fire. Man City won 2-0 versus Brentford. Southampton won 3-2 versus Spurs. Chelsea won 1-0 versus Al Hilal. Norwich drew 1-1 versus Palace. Palmeiras won 2-0 versus Al Ahly. Liverpool won 2-0 versus Leicester. Arsenal won 1-0 versus Wolves. Juventus won 2-1 versus Sassuolo. Fiorentina won 3-2 versus Atlanta. Valencia drew 1-1 versus Bilbao. PSG won 1-0 versus Rennes. Man U drew 1-1 versus Southampton. Bochum won 4-2 versus Bayern. Villarreal drew 0-0 versus Real Madrid. Brighton won 2-0 versus Watford. Palace drew 0-0 versus Brentford. Everton won 3-2 versus Leeds. Inter drew 1-1 versus Napoli. Man City won 4-0 versus Norwich. Chelsea won 2-1 versus Palmeiras to win the Club World Cup. Atletico won 4-3 versus Getafe. Wolves won 2-0 versus Spurs. Liverpool won 1-0 versus Burnley. Newcastle won 1-0 versus Villa. Dortmund won 3-2 versus Union Berlin. Leicester drew 2-2 versus West Ham. Atalanta drew 1-1 versus Juventus. And yeah, that is all the sports news. Not loads of big interesting things, but I mean Chelsea won the Club World Cup, which is quite interesting. And I mean Bayern got battered, I suppose, which is something that doesn't happen every week. Moving on to the F1 news now. Norris has extended his McLaren contract until 2025, and the Bahrain Grand Prix will stay on the calendar until 2036, which is a very long contract, and it will be interesting to see what's going on in the world then. Moving on to the UFC and news. Tuivasa won via KO in round 2 versus Lewis, which I did not predict right. Adesanya won via decision versus Whittaker, which I did predict right, and I mean Adesanya did very well. And I'm just happy I got it right. Dos Anjos Dos Anjos will fight Fiziev on the 5th of March. Blades will fight Dorkaus on the 26th of March. And Cannonier will via KO in round 2 versus Brunson. And yeah, that is all the UFC and news. Moving on to the final sport, which is the NFL news. Rams won 23-20 versus Bengals to win the Super Bowl. And what a game it was. It was my first one that I watched, my first Super Bowl to watch. Stayed up late in UK times to watch it, and it was a very good watch, and I do not regret doing it. Cooper Kupp, what a player, got MVP in the end, and I mean, Rams fought back, and in the end, their defense was too strong. Donald, great player, done very well to in defense for the Rams, and overall, I think the Rams probably did deserve it a bit more. The Bengals, I do feel quite bad for, as I mean, they did start very well and were playing well, but in the end, the Rams got the win. And yeah, that is all the Sport This Week news. Hope you have enjoyed. Like the video if you did indeed like the video. Subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.